Well, good afternoon, good morning, gardeners and homesteaders. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and you're going to have a fantastic day. It is just about that season. You see this tree right here? That is my signal that it is almost compost season. So we're coming into the season where it's going to be really good time to start building compost for next year, and we're really working it. We spend a lot of our winter focusing on that, and it's just a great time to get going. So we're going to talk about how I'm going to get ready for it, and the first steps that I'm going to take, and also a couple benefits that we're going to get out of our compost pile other than making compost for our garden. But first, I want to take a quick second and check on the seedlings we started in a previous video. All right, I haven't been out here in a couple days. We had some pretty good rains the other night, but this is the lettuce and spinach tray, and this is the spinach tray, and you can see everything is starting to grow. It got beat up pretty good in that rain. I mean, we had bad rains, but it's working out pretty good here. I'm thinking I'm liking this spot for the most part. I'll say this, a lot of the leaves look like they're a little bit bruised from that rain. So I may need to figure out something where I give them a little bit of cover or something like that. I don't really know what I want to do just yet, but I'm really liking this spot for this kind of year because everything that I start there comes up, and it seems to stay just cool enough. We have been in the mid 90s, and now we're starting to drop into the upper 80s to mid 80s for the next week, hopefully. And it's just going to make it a little bit better. So if we've got any reseeding we need to do, now is the time to do it. And I'm going to give these a couple days, and we'll just kind of go from there and see what we can do. Started this tray a while ago, and this is part of the compost stuff, but you can see nothing came out of it. But this is a big benefit of compost pile. So I take every single thing that comes out of my garden or is purposed for my garden, and this is my finished pile, which as you can see is getting low, and we'll just dump it all in there. And I mean, I just basically use this as, it sounds bad, but like a trash pile. I don't throw literal trash in there, but anything soil related, anything garden cuttings that's not diseased or causes disease, anything like that, we go ahead and we put into our compost. And obviously anything that's not been broken down at all or is not soil will go into our, because we run a 2-bin system here, we'll go into our non-broken down one, and then anything like the soils or anything like that, we'll just automatically throw them in there from screening any soils or anything like that. Either we'll put it in here or we'll throw it in another garden bed. We want to build up the soil over time. But this is a really great way to use your compost system. Talk of compost systems, I have a non-finished and a finished, and it's getting to be perfect right now because this one is getting used down. I didn't use a whole lot of my compost this year, but we're going to start turning this real regular here in about a month. And I'm looking at my bins now, and I built these out of pallets. They were free to build. Well, they cost me $5 to build. So I went and I bought the pallets, and then I just came and got these little brackets here so I could hold them together easily and, you know, build your little compost bin. But it's time to replace these. I'm gonna move away from the free compost bin. I'm gonna build a cheap one, don't get me wrong. But I'm definitely think I'm just gonna kind of move away from that and just start with something fresh, new design, basically because I want to. But too, this has been, I think I've had this bin for, this will be the 3rd year. And so I don't really want to rebuild it every 3 years, but I think I'm just gonna use basic 2x4s, and I'll probably do a video on it too. Just build out the corners with 2x4s and then use something like these slats here. So these are fence slats, they're treated, and they're like $1 a board. So we can take them and then just basically do the same thing we have here where we build a fence around it. And I'd like to have tighter gaps because I'm finding that animals are getting in and they're kind of munching on our compost a bit. And the pallets have served us well, but I think it's time to move away from pallets. Now, we're very budget conscious on our homestead, and sometimes we use these free methods and cheap alternatives, and then it's a great way to get started. get everything going, and then we'll move on to maybe upgrading it once it breaks down. We don't waste it or anything like that. And those pallets will have a good finishing party. We're gonna burn them in the burn pit. So there is that aspect of it. But we need to kind of, I don't really need to do it, but I would like to before the season starts. And the reason why it's compost season is because we got a lot of stuff coming out of our garden. We're gonna have a lot of stuff coming out soon. We have a lot of stuff coming out. It's perfect timing. Providing, like for instance, these tomatoes, if they don't get any kind of terrible disease or anything, we're just gonna go ahead and compost the whole plant when we're done. We're gonna clip it and compost it. And then all of these vines over here, especially these black-eyed pea vines, we will go ahead and compost those. Now, I'm gonna show you this. First of all, let me show you this part. Look at this. This Seminole squash is growing about 3 feet a day right now. So it comes all the way out to here, and it's just going all the way up and over, and it's spreading. It's just going crazy. But we will not compost this just because squashes are known to hold diseases and stuff like that. And I don't really want to perpetuate that through my compost, so we won't worry about that at all. But anything else that's not overly diseased, we will definitely compost. Truth be told, all throughout the winter and into the spring, anytime we catch cabbage or harvest cabbage and we are trimming the outer leaves, our broccoli, and we're getting rid of any of the extra leaves, stuff like that, it all goes into the compost. And it's a lot more time because I find that your cool season crops compost better, or they're better suited for compost because we don't have a plethora of diseases at that time. We can get the bugs under control, the pests and all that, and then we can kind of move on from there. And it just seems to me like we have a lot more going into our compost in the cold seasons. And that really leads us to build up. Not to mention, all of these leaves you see around us are gonna fall on the ground. And we use that to our advantage. And we'll take and we'll rake them up and we'll put them in there. And this is the best time to build up your browns for your compost, because everything that I've mentioned so far is basically your nitrogen source, and we've got to even that out. And these leaves and stuff like that will even that out. And as we're building up and getting rid of all of this garden refuse, from our garden, we can add these leaves in, and then it'll just help give it that perfect mixture to help it break down faster and create air gaps and everything else, because the leaves also don't break down as fast as your trimmings from your plants, and because they're crunchy, right? And it just leaves all these little gaps for air and water to get in, and it really is just fuel for your compost. And this is a perfect season for that. To keep it super simple, if your season is finishing up or you're ahead of me and you already have leaves on the ground, which, by the way, this tree right here tells me that it's almost compost season because the leaves are already starting to fall off of it, and it's like one of the first trees. Once I see that, then I know that it's coming, and to prepare myself. But if you've already got your leaves falling and you're ready to build up your compost and activate it, what you can do is, and this is why I recommend a 2-bin system, is come out here and take this pile, flip it into this pile, wait a couple days, flip it back, wait a couple days, flip it back, bop, 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 every couple days, flipping it, and you'll kind of build it more. It'll get a lot faster and it'll cook sooner and just really heat up and charge. I go to do that into my garden or into my compost, and I will definitely do a video about that and explain it in a little bit more detail. But I realize not everybody's in the same zone as me. Some people are already losing leaves. Some people are like, what's a leaf falling? I don't even know what that is. Well, basically, everybody's leaves fall for the most part, but they happen at different times. And it just it'll allow you to kind of get a jump start if you need to. Now, there's other ways that we're going to talk about in the near future, because like I said, from fall all the way into winter is really big compost building season for me. I spend a lot of time building my compost, and we'll go into in the near future all these different ins and outs and about compost and stuff like that. And as we build out this this compost bin and change it, we're gonna see if maybe I don't even need to waste the money, but I think wood prices have come down enough and I can do it with so little wood that it may be financially feasible for me to do it. And I've seen people with 1 bins, 2 bins, 3 bins, all that stuff. And if I had to make a personal recommendation, I would say you need to have a 2 bin system, unfinished and finished, and just call it quits there. And then if you need to make it faster, just turn it faster and faster, more and more. As of right now, where I sit in the summertime, I don't do anything to my compost pile but add to it. I don't turn it. I might turn it once in the summertime. I don't turn, other than that though, I don't turn it. I don't move it. I don't really water it or anything. And then once we start to get to this time of year, we start adding more to it. So we're gonna be doing a deep cleaning on our chicken coop, and we'll be cleaning everything out of it. And so all of that's gonna go in there. So we're gonna add the manure, we're gonna add the leaf, the bedding, and all that stuff. We'll be adding that, and we're gonna be putting in more straw. We're gonna be clearing out some of the stuff in our garden, and we'll be adding that stuff in. And then on top of that, we're gonna start adding leaves. And once we do that, then it's game on. And as you can see, our compost pile is pretty low. It's probably right now, because I dug down a little bit, it's about 3 feet deep. In about a month or two, it's probably gonna be about 6 feet high, almost 6 feet high. So it'll be just about eye level if we're lucky for me. And then once we do that, then we can start turning it faster and faster and more and building up more and more compost. And that's gonna give you a good head start into the next year. So embrace it. The garden never stops. You may stop planting, but we're always preparing for the next season, and compost building is one of the key things that you can do to keep yourself active, because it is a lot of work. Keep yourself active, keep yourself preparing and mentally engaged in your garden, even when you're going into the off season.